is everybody here now? Everyone is. Good morning. If everyone can just be seated, please. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here in Johannesburg at NASREC for the first, well, it's the inaugural Fleet Safety Awards in South Africa. My name is Lorette Morgan. I have been a motoring and broadcast journalist for 29 years in South Africa. And currently I have a motoring program on Ekurhuleni 939 FM called Drive Time with Lorette Morgan. And I'm also a news anchor at Hot 1027 FM. So if you're wondering, who is this person? Okay. So to start with, government stats, and I went into government stats, and I don't want to upset anyone, but the last official government stats we had was 2004 for trucks on our roads. Now, Patrick O'Leary and I spoke about it, and basically how it's worked out. Between 2003 and 2004, fleets grew by 381 fleets, okay? There had been, I think, 14,000 and something, and it took it to 15,000 fleets. So in 2004, we had 15,000 fleets in the country, okay? Given that they grow by an average of 381, and obviously give and take, we've had COVID, we've had this and that, but as Patrick O'Leary also says, you know, with this influx of online shopping in the last few years, logistics companies have just exploded. We have got, from back then, 279,000 trucks on our roads. We have almost 1 million, and that is from 3.5 tonners up, okay? So it's not only the big haul, it's all the trucks. But I mean, they all affect us, you and me, as we drive every day. Whether you're a passenger or whether you are driving a car, it affects each and every one of us, how they drive and their familiarity with safety, their driver training, all that stuff. Now, then the idea was born for the MasterDrive Fleet Safety Awards. And basically to tell you all about it, how it was born, what the parameters have been for this competition, etc. I'd like to welcome to the stage CEO of MasterDrive, Eugene Herbert.
Well, let me first say thank you for being here. You know, it's with some degree of trepidation that you send out invites. And I must tell you, this is the best subscribed colloquium or webinar that we've had. I've got Wayne Divinage, not to single you out, Wayne, but he's taken time out of his busy schedule fighting crime and corruption to be here. I've got a customer there, Philip Moelman from Johnson & Johnson, and if you want to get even with him for those jabs, we asked him to avail himself, so please. So thank you for everybody being here. Let's just talk, and I'd like just to put up a slide and see if you recognize this. Anybody care to comment on what they think that is? The phoenix. What is the reason for this mythical phoenix that people have used for years? And I'd like to put up the next quote and tell you what it has to say about that. Really, it's about something that arises from what was previously nothing and morphs itself into something new. And I'm quite sure that all of you, your companies have had to do so. And not too different from MasterDrive. We went into COVID, and I'm glad to say we've survived it particularly well in that nobody's gone, all our branches are still there, and we've had some growth. But it hasn't been without adversity. And out of that adversity grew the opportunity to present something such as this. You are all aware, and by the way, for future reference, if you want to attend our colloquiums, we learned that we could communicate with customers without having to do so in person. And therefore, this became possible. So it's gestation period of about 4 years, and watching what's happening in the UK, the United States, and there's one similar to that in Australia, to recognize individuals who actually stand for something that's important. I'm sure you'll agree, and when I speak on occasions and I talk about road safety, you can almost see them shut down, eh? Oh, boring. But if I tell you that the number of people that we kill on our roads every year is equivalent to a jumbo jet crashing every 10 days, we need to do something about it. And you know, in the absence of anybody else being able to take the lead, we thought, let's reach out to corporates, join us in this good fight, because you know, a fleet manager who we will recognize today gets paid to do a job. Companies realize it's good business to have good safety standards in place, not so. So let's go beyond that. Let's recognize those individuals and those companies. The number of companies that subscribed, and let me tell you, within, and Sam will correct me, probably 48 hours, we had the bulk of our entries in. 44 companies, and these are not hole-in-the-wall companies, guys. You see who's around here today. 76, if I'm not mistaken, fleet managers, except that there was one that really caught my attention. I'm in sales, please, how do I enter this? And I've got to admit that they're reaching out. So let's just pay homage to those who made this possible. And I'm really, and some of the first ones, you know, there we have Equestra. And I'm not going to single anybody out for any other reason than to say, when we first approached them, it was, yes, we're on board. The next one, and so it followed. And so the companies, in no particular order, we have Equestra, we have Hino, and you've seen videos of them playing here. And by the way, we circulated, we probably touched base with over 100,000 people in this last while. Hino South Africa, Tata Motors, VSC, Webfleet Solutions, Bridgestone, Speedfox, Drive Risk, and let's not forget Expo Center, where we are training is based over here. And if you ever look out here, you'll see our trucks and that. So, by the way, don't forget we do training, eh? Just remember. So, let's have a look then. Why are we here today? And it's many reasons, but the first of which is to speak about the subject. We've lined up a panel of international speakers. We've just limited to 2. They're going to be talking to you, and both Tanya and what's his name again, Michael, he's an Australian, so please, when he comes on here, don't stone him, all right? It's our screens that we'll have to pay for. And you're welcome to mock him. He likes red meat, but they can't play rugby or cricket, all right? So you tell him that. So to speak about the subject of road safety, we also want you to take cognizance of international best practices. And there they will talk about the safe system. You know, the irony it is, countries subscribe to it. And one of the things that will be unpacked by Michael, how you as a company could almost be a country. So what are you doing to take the lead? And then, let's not forget about it, we had to give away some prizes as well. But just before we go to that, and I hand back to Lorette, she gave you some statistics. Just think about it. We have something like 755,000 kilometers of roads. Population, 60 million. Vehicle population, around about 14 million. Fatalities, you know what they are? 15,000, maybe even more. Compare Australia. Road infrastructure of about 857,000 kilometers. Population, 26 million. Vehicle population, 25 million. 1,200 road deaths. Hey, come on. God, you know, does it make sense? So do we need to do something? And the unequivocal answer is yes. So let's get on with it. Let's see what difference we can make. And again, thank you everyone for being here. Back to you, Lorette.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Now, we all know this next guest, I think, or speaker. I think he's also a dear old friend of most of us in the industry who've been in the industry as long as we have. In 1993, this young journalist founded Fleet Watch magazine. And the name indicates, as it does, a watchdog of fleets in this country. I don't think there's anyone in this country, well, not that I know of, who knows more about the industry. And to tell us more about the state of road safety in the country, we are joined virtually by Managing Editor at Fleet Watch magazine, Mr. Patrick O'Leary. Patrick, good morning and welcome. Now, where will I see Patrick? Oh, you're going to play a video. Oh, I thought I'm going to be speaking to him. Oh. He was intimidated. Can we hit the video, please? This is the inaugural event. We're going to have a few teething issues. Please bear with us. Are you finding it? It's Patrick O'Leary from Fleet Watch magazine.
Well, Patrick, notwithstanding your other commitments that didn't make it possible for you to be with us in person at our Fleet Safety Awards, thank you for agreeing to a brief chat. And I'd just like to share, or have you share with us some of your thoughts on road safety, because you're vociferous, to say the least, on what could be done different. And this is not a government bashing platform, but you've been in the working in the interest of road safety for many years. So anything that you have to say, I'm sure that not only me and our those in the audience in attendance here personally, but our virtual audience will appreciate. So what is it that you could share with us about your views on the state of road safety in South Africa at the moment, given we've just come out of COVID, etc.?
Thank you for the introduction, Eugene, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's a real privilege. State of road safety, I think it's the worst I've ever seen. We deal with statistics and all that, and I hate it when people refer to death statistics as a body count, because each one of those, just a position where I come from, each one of those has a name, and each one of those bodies have people who love them. So, the statistics are terrible. I look at it almost on a daily basis, and I'm seeing it on a daily basis. And forgetting the statistics, I just see crashes every day. I see it's increasing. I'm on a lot of WhatsApp groups. I'm in contact with truck drivers. I'm in contact with a lot of people who are involved in that arena, emergency service personnel, paramedics, and I'm seeing it every day. And also, what I'm looking at, if you look at the conditions in which trucks are operating today, rail has failed the country, okay? And really, the wheels of the economy today are the trucks. You saw it during level 5 of lockdown and COVID, where the only thing moving, well, not the only thing moving, but the trucks are the ones that kept the essential goods on the stores. They were out there doing it. And some, not all of them, by the way, some companies parked off their trucks for the whole of level 5. There was one company had 700 trucks because they delivered coal. So rail has failed and the trucks are out there. So they're under enormous pressure to deliver. And there are positives and negatives in that.
I know we're talking road safety, but I'm going to ask you at the end of our discussion to share some of your insight what the recent floods have had on the trucking industry. But maybe just moving off, when you talk about statistics, and I know that your focus is on trucks primarily, but when we see the number of people we kill, 15,000, whichever number you look, a jumbo jet crashing every 10 days, that's the amount of people we take out. And if you had to look at something like that, I'm sure that people would take road safety more seriously. So think about this. Given the fact that there could be more done by government, and let's not criticize what they are doing, but companies are at the forefront. So what do you think companies or organizations could do to demonstrate their commitment to road safety? And here's a nice one that I'd like you to elaborate on if possible. What part of company culture should road safety play?
Well, it should be on executive level. We used to have a culture, for example, of driver training in South Africa. That culture seems to have gone. There are many companies who do their own internal driver training, but as a general culture among our industry. We used to have a Lapis driver training college. Everyone went there. That seems to have fallen apart. And so in terms of the culture, it's not a little down table corporate thing. It should be at executive level. And that is where it belongs. And that's where it's not operating in many companies. And I do want to say that in South Africa, we have a mix of what I call first and third world companies. The first world companies, and I don't mean that in a traditional sense, first world companies are really world class. There's some top class country with huge, wonderful policies in place. But the majority of the trucks are in the hands of the small to medium-sized companies. And that is where we need to impact, because the big guys have quite a lot of good systems in place. And the small to medium-sized companies, some of them are excellent, but I'm afraid to say a lot of them are absolutely useless. Some of them shouldn't even be in this industry. I mean,
we're not going to name and shame now, all right?
No, we won't name and shame. I don't know if many of them have names. They just buy a truck and get out there and operate. I'm talking about side tipper market. Now, as you know, thank goodness for the commodities. And here again, rail has failed. We've lost billions of rands to rail not be able to keep up with the exporting commodity from the global demand, especially since the Ukraine war. So trucks are following that. Trucks are, hauling the commodities. And there are many companies that are just hiring fly-by-nights. And my heart goes out to some of these people because they think they're going to make lots of money. And I see them when they fall over. I mean, brakes don't fail. Jack Webster used to say, unless you fail to put your foot on the brake pedal. They don't have brakes to fail on some of these. Their tippers have nothing. The drums are empty. There's not even brake boosters fitted on some. And I will send you some photographs if you'd like. And so there's so much that there's no adherence to standards. We've got standards like the RTMS, the Road Transport Management System, but the bigger guys are, and some of the medium guys are adhering to that, and it is a quality system. But the smaller guys are not. They're just running non-stop, and the owners and whoever's given those contracts should hang their heads in shame because you're killing people.
And I know that some of the things that you're saying are of interest, are known to our audience, but we also have an international audience. So I sincerely trust that they will empathize with us based on the challenges. Now, I don't know if I shared with you in this. Now, this is our inaugural event.
By the way, could I just interrupt it? New York in the last month has had the most deaths they've had in 10 years. So international audience, please listen. And you need to do stuff over there as well. Sweden, Volvo has got a zero death, zero policy, zero emissions, etc. Maybe a mad aim, but hang it, it's an admirable aim. But New York is killing people every day on road accidents. So please listen, international audience.
And that's not police, eh? All right, so getting that, over 40 companies that have entered this competition, eh? Now that I think is incredible. Which moves me now to the second part of our Food Safety Awards, and that was individuals. And by the way, I think it was over 77 individuals made it through to the finals, all right? That we had to eventually to eliminate. Now, my question to you is, and I'm asking you because I don't have the answer, what do you think that individuals who aspire to being serious about road safety, what can we do to better equip those individuals to do their job properly? And I'm talking about from a company point of view. What do you think?
Okay, first of all, I think you should have someone that starts on the executive. An executive board member should be driving the road safety portfolio in any company. And then you go it down. And one of the most important people in a company in terms of road safety, funny enough, is not just the driver. There's two very important people. The frontline supervisor. It's a difficult task to balance customer demands for speedy deliveries, on-time deliveries, with the things that have been inculcated into drivers. Safe driving, don't drive fatigue. Now, the operations manager gets under pressure from the customer. I've got to have this now, but he just arrived back, the driver from Cape Town, put him on the road again. I think it's not one person. It's got to be a culture, and it's got to filter down into every sector of the company. You've got to have a road safety committee. If you want to call it something else, that's it. Call it something else. Say Saving Lives Committee. The workshop manager has to be on that committee. The driver has to have an open line of communication with the workshop manager. If the driver finds something unsafe on his road, on his rig, he should have the authority not to take that rig out on the road, to refuse to take it until that is fixed. That only comes from a company engendering a total road safety culture in the company. Have policies, write those policies down, have training on those policies, and don't just talk it, walk the talk.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't help but but agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, just before we say goodbye to you, we're giving this recognition, and wait until you see what it looks like. That I'm sure that you will be absolutely impressed. I'm not going to tell you what the name of the individual is now, but this is going to be named after a person that both you and I know, that I have incredibly high regard for the role that he plays in road safety. We will share that with our audience in the discussion. What do you think a recognition to a company being awarded this, what do you think it brings to them in your opinion?
And you know, we're living in a harsh world, Eugene. If you look around, you know, people are saying Putin might push the nuclear button. The Ukraine war, you see kids suffering, being killed. You see climate change. You see the floods in KwaZulu-Natal. You don't see much heart. You don't see much thanks. And I think in a world like this, how often do people go to a restaurant and they have really good food and good service and the waiter is fantastic, and they take the time to thank that person, to acknowledge that person? It's encouraging, it's saying thank you to the person, and that motivates a person to do even better. I think awards like this are superb. I don't think they should be surfaced. I think they should be earned. Like all good awards must be earned, not just sort of you know what I mean? And I know you won't allow that just to be a token gesture. They've got to be earned. And in that way, you encourage other people. And basically, you're saying, thank you for saving my life, for helping to save my life on the road and save my family life and save your family life. Because everybody counts. I hate that word, body count. Every person has a name and has people who love them. And what you're doing is you're trying to save those people's lives. That's what road safety is about. And Eugene, an award like this is saying thank you for trying to do that.
Thank you for those kind words. And what I would like you to do is also use this opportunity to thank our EC partners. You know, even media houses have got together behind us to push this message through. And if I tell you the phenomenal response that I've had, wherever I go, oh, we've heard about it. So thank you for being with us, albeit not in person. And we certainly look forward to having you with us next year. Again, Patrick O'Leary from Fleet Watch, thank you.
Thank you so much, Eugene, and congrats.
Thank you, Patrick. Legend. Anyway, so let's continue. I know we all, you know, thinking Friday the 13th. Oh dear, what's going to happen today? Well, I'll tell you what's happened to me already today. Nothing's ever happened to me on Friday the 13th until today. And that is why I am writing and whatever. Otherwise, I'd just be sitting there very quietly, smiling and interacting. And what did I do? For some reason, I prepared my script on auto cue, everything lovely. And when I tried to save, the computer just hung. And I lost everything, and I was on the phone to the head of technical at Hot 1027 for an hour. We were trying to recover it, because as you know, quite often you can recover stuff. Couldn't recover anything. So I hope my memory serves me well enough and that I'm doing the job justice. But I did write it myself, so I do know what I'm saying, believe it or not. And on that note, now, the latest study done by an online education company, and it's called, what is their name? Zutobi. It's actually a company in America, and I know that there's quite a lot of controversy around it and how they get to who is ranked number one, etc. But the bottom line is, we know, as we heard earlier, I think we've got the 10th highest death rate and whatever in the world. Now, the latest study done by Zutobi has this week, it came out this week, I had it in the news, ranked South Africa the most dangerous country to drive in. The study scored each country out of 10 based on 5 factors. And those factors are or were estimated road traffic death rate, maximum speed limit, seatbelt compliance, road traffic deaths contributed to alcohol, and blood and alcohol limit for the driver. So that is where we are at the moment, whether we agree with it or not, or certainly we're not happy about it. I know it's scary I mean, I don't drive at night anymore if I can help it. It's just not for me, it just doesn't feel like a safe place to be. And you know, when you're thinking of doing that N3 route, all the trucks and what we are talking about here, you know, it's intimidating, it is scary. I mean, what should just be a journey to be enjoyed, to go on holiday or whatever, turns into a bit of a nightmare. So we do obviously have a problem. Now, Tanya Fosdick is Research Director at Agilisis Limited in the United Kingdom. And she's introducing the SAFE system, and she's doing this virtually for us. Tanya Fosdick, welcome to the event. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're wrapping at the moment.
I should be able to share my screen. Can I? It's currently disabled for me. If somebody can allow me to share my presentation, please. There's just a setting on Zoom that needs turning on, please. Here we go, wonderful. Fingers crossed, that's now sharing. Pieces. Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you today. In this session, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to the SAFE system. As was just said, I'm presenting from England. I'm not going to get into the rugby and cricket conversation about Australia and South Africa. We'll leave that for another day. So, the SAFE system and Vision Zero thinking originated in Sweden in 1994 and has had a tangible effect on road fatalities. The Netherlands is also a forerunner in the design and application of this approach. Through policy and practice, there were large reductions in deaths on Swedish roads, including a 73% reduction in fatalities per 100,000 people between 2000 and 2020, as can be seen on the chart on the left of the screen. Norway has also adopted SAFE system thinking, and in 2019, the capital of Oslo suffered no pedestrian, cyclist or motorcyclist deaths for the whole year, which was pretty remarkable. Other territories who are successfully implementing SAFE system thinking are Canada, the United States, and Australia. So what is it? Well, we can design a perfect system, but the problem is always how people interact with the system. We can keep changing the system design to try and change behaviours, but we'll never achieve success because people are people, and when they make mistakes, bad things happen. The potential for the level of harm is also a critical consideration, and we'll come to this later. So for designers and engineers of safety systems, it can be difficult to move away from saying, look, if we can just stop people doing this thing, then everything will be okay. But it's impossible to embrace a safe system unless you accept the 2 points on this slide. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to stop people making mistakes in the first place, but we shouldn't rely on it. We need to look at all elements of the safe system approach. So this safe system diagram is adapted from the Australian Road Safety Strategy and includes 6 elements, including road safety management. The vision is to create a system where no human being should be killed or seriously injured as a result of a road crash. This is known as the Vision Zero concept, and it can be achieved by the acknowledgement of 4 imperatives. We know that people make mistakes that can lead to road collisions. Now, of course, there are individuals who behave recklessly on the roads, but almost nobody goes into a vehicle with the intention of causing a collision. There are many reasons why people make mistakes, and they're not all due to illegal behaviour. Human beings are not designed to tolerate the forces which are present in a collision, and therefore harm is likely to occur when the human body is subject to such forces. Next, there's a shared responsibility amongst us to prevent collisions from resulting in death or serious injury. This responsibility lies with those who design roads and vehicles, those who build roads and vehicles, those who manage roads and vehicles, and lastly, those who use roads and vehicles. The involvement of the road user in the shared responsibility is essential. It changes the relationship we have with those we are trying to protect. And lastly, it's about systems thinking. If one part of the system fails, the rest of the system is strong enough that it protects road users. It means that the whole system is stronger than the sum of its parts. Okay, well, what does this mean? So this comparison I'm about to show by ITF can be a little harsh on traditional road safety approaches, but it can be useful for demonstrating what the challenges are when moving towards a safe system approach. So as seen here, it's about moving away from trying to prevent all collisions to an acceptance that collisions will occur, but which are set on our roads. So these S-curves show the speeds at which fatalities are likely to occur. Now there's a large variance between 0 chance of death for pedestrians at 20 kph and certain death at 60 kph. Note this is focusing on fatalities, not serious injuries. So, using all of the evidence about human frailty and the movement of vehicles, this table has been created. Now the research is a little old and there have been improvements in vehicle safety since 1999, which means that some of these speeds could increase slightly, but it is a good illustration of how safe speeds are approached within the safe system. Imagine the implications if this was put in place overnight. Urban roads would reduce from 60 km/h to 30 km/h, with non-freeway roads outside of your urban areas dropping to 70. Now, whilst it might seem radical, it's about analysing roads to identify the types of potential collision and reducing the likelihood of that type of risk occurring. If there are vulnerable road users who are not segregated from motor vehicles, speeds must be low. Similarly, where there is the potential for a vehicle emerging from a side road and impacting with another vehicle, because of the forces involved and the protection from the side, the speed should be lower than if the only likely impact is from frontal collisions. Where there is no likelihood of these kinds of impact because there are no side junctions and the oncoming traffic is segregated, only then can we have higher speeds. And remember, this is not just about speed limits. There's no point lowering limits if vehicle speeds don't follow. All we're doing is increasing non-compliance. So we need to think about how to ensure that vehicles travel at these safe speeds. We can't stop just by lowering the limits. This takes us on to safe road design. So there are two main ways we objectively assess the level of risk on a particular road. So risk mapping, as shown here, assesses how dangerous a road has been. And star ratings look at the road itself and measure the observed features against a risk database. So to create a safe system, road infrastructure design standards need to be reviewed. It's about retrospectively improving existing roads and using safe system principles to design new ones. The ITF uses a great analogy from the design of buildings. All balconies all balconies on buildings must have balcony rails as a default. There isn't specific cost-benefit analysis for individual balconies that takes account of the height of the balcony, or wind exposure, or the width of the balcony, or the age of the people potentially using it. All of these things are embedded in the design manuals for structural engineers and are standard practice. So why not with roads? Well, Safe System does provide guidance on road design, which sits alongside speed limit setting to design out risk and provide support in the event of a mistake occurring. So as can be seen from the picture here on the proactive assessment, tree removal, installation of barriers, providing runoff areas are all proactive measures to reduce risk. Humans have always been the weak link in the road transport system. The fact that humans do not behave safely within the limits of the road transport system has usually been attributed to knowledge, information, or attitude problems. So we've traditionally focused on improving human behaviour through rules, training, monitoring, and information. But humans do not always make objective, correct, and consistent decisions. By putting the road user at the centre of the system, we're making the first and most important step towards a safe system. It recognises human strengths and weaknesses. We need to help and support them to comply with road rules, acknowledging their capabilities and limitations. So here's a long list of the types of errors that road users undertake, and they range from minor slips to full violations. And a range of initiatives and instruments can be used to guide and support road users, including infrastructure design, speed limits, road laws, education and training, and licensing. But there must be a recognition that human error will not be eliminated through behavioural measures alone, and other parts of the system need to be relied on. One of the things we want to embed is a sense of shared responsibility. Let's start thinking across safe system elements rather than having separate road user groups or target audiences that we're working on, because this almost inculcates a blame culture and reduces the need for personal responsibility. If it's all the truck driver's fault or the cyclist's fault or the road designer's fault, nobody's going to take on that personal responsibility. Now, these are technologies and systems which help protect road users both within and outside of vehicles. And obviously different nations are at different stages for implementation and adoption of these. Now, do we just sit and wait for these vehicles and technologies to start appearing on our network? Or can we do something to help? As fleet managers, you can lead by example in procurement. You can work with your supply chain. You can lobby for new legislation and help to set and adopt new standards. This element of the safe system is often not thought about as an integral part of road safety. It's almost something that kind of happens as a result. In the UK, our medical care and response is very good. We have emergency phone numbers and coordinated dispatching. We have high quality medical care with dedicated trauma centres. But there is still more that we could do, that could be done. Having vehicles fitted with eCall, for example, or encouraging the use of location apps such as What 3 Words. Training members of the public in first aid. Then there's dealing with the aftermath, the provision of counselling for the bereaved or traumatised, supporting victims in the pursuit of justice, detailed collision investigation to understand the factors which led to the collision occurring, and providing evidence for prosecution and to inform remedial measures. So the principles of the safe system are pretty straightforward. They're not difficult to accept. But what does this mean for us all? Well, obviously there are key players who must lead on safe system thinking. Government leadership is essential for legislation and funding. Local highways authorities will lead on safe roads, and the police need to ensure there are safe speeds and compliance with traffic laws. But there is a part to play for us all. Employers can think about fleet safety, maintenance, and the choice of vehicles they procure. In South Africa, there is the adoption of RTMS standards and completing the accreditation process. We can have employee policies on driving behaviour, where speeding, drink and drug driving, and mobile phone use are not tolerated. We can encourage the use of location apps like What 3 Words, which can be used to get emergency services to crashes more quickly. We can promote the concept of shared responsibility, working with authorities to co-design solutions, lobbying vehicle manufacturers on standards, and urging governments to adopt safe system policies. We can all think about the safe system and how we can contribute to strengthen it. And this is why we need to do this.
So last year, 213 people died on our roads. What do you think would be a more acceptable number?
Acceptable? 70 maybe? Probably 70.
You said 70? Actually, this is what 70 people looks like.
It's a family.
So now, what do you think would be a more acceptable number?
0. 0.
Oops, sorry. Let me just get to the next slide. So, apologies for ending on a bit of a sombre note, but I think it's a powerful way of sharing the concept of safe system and that goal of Vision Zero. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope this short introduction to the safe system has been interesting and useful. Congratulations to the finalists and winners, and thank you for letting me participate. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you so much, Tanya. That's Tanya Faustik, Research Director at Agilisis Limited in the UK. Now, moving along, the South African Insurance Association monitors the non-life insurance industry in our country. I looked at the word complacency because I think that is probably the worst thing one can be in life in general. Now, it says a feeling of smugness with oneself, that you have done enough and can just cruise along. That is not so. And to tell us what would happen if nothing changes, I would like to welcome the General Manager of Insurance Risk at SAIA, Pamela Ramagaga. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for this opportunity for us to engage you. Okay. All right. After Tanya's ending video, I felt a bit teary, so I thought by the time I come up here, I'll be all composed, but I can feel my emotions already quite high in terms of 70 versus 0. My presentation, I hope, you know, when Eugene said, when you talk road safety, people yawn. Can you imagine what they do when you talk insurance? So, so I hope I don't keep you not engaged. I'm on the index page. Thank you. So I've got a couple of key questions that I want to go through. Some you'll yawn through, some you might fight me on, but I think broadly you'll agree with me. So looking at specifically what the global state of road crashes is. So it's a major global health challenge, we know that. Recently we've engaged the World Bank, and they've done a research that includes South Africa, but it's looking at Africa and the southern parts of Africa in terms of how much does it actually cost us from road fatalities. So personally, I'm very much looking forward to see what that study looks like. I'm not expecting it to look good, but I think it will be very clear to no other than our government in terms of what the true figure is when it comes to the economic and social constraints caused by, you know, deaths on our roads or even fatal injuries in terms of somebody not being able to go back to work full time because they've lost a limb or something has been impaired on them. So there's about 1.35 million people who die on our roads worldwide. I mean, you saw from the 70 to 0. Now imagine 1.35 million people. That's a lot of people, 50 of which million are seriously injured. 93% happens in our low and medium income countries. We are one of them. So it just shows us with our current economic constraints, now imagine what road fatalities are doing. You have a breadwinner who dies. Can you imagine? I know I support more than 7 people in my family. So if I go, what happens to those 7 people? So those are the kind of scenarios that we face with in South Africa. What made me sad, and it was also inculcated in this morning from Eugene, is that we are seen as a hotspot in terms of sub-Saharan parts of Africa, South Africa being one of them, in terms of road deaths. I mean, that's not good. So it kind of propels us to do something quite urgently to appease the situation. What about South Africa? So we have 1 million road accidents, and some of these stats are a bit outdated, but there's still figures we can work with. We are ranked out of, the average globally, it's 18 per 100 people, 100,000 people. We are ranked 26. I think that's, I'm talking in sync in terms of what Eugene shared this morning and what the other gentleman also shared this morning. Looking at how much is that costing us, so we're looking at a figure of about 176 billion. Thabiso can attest to this. This is a 2019 figure that I'm working with. with a figure of 3.5%, which is a 2018 stat. So question now is, what does that stat look like now? I mean, our GDP for 2022 is estimated at about 4 trillion, if I'm not wrong. So when I calculated it personally, it came to about 246 billion, working only on a percentage rate of 3.5. So I don't know what that percentage rate looks like now. So this is the part where I personally, I get very concerned about, being a driver on the road myself. There's about 13, Eugene said, you said 14 million registered vehicles on our South African roads. Only a third of those are insured, which means there's about 9 million cars not insured. Now, it talks to you when you have an accident with somebody. You might be insured, but that guy's not insured and he's at fault. That means you must cover your own costs and you can't reclaim it anywhere else, which means your premium can't be adjusted because there was a recovery on your damage. So you carry the load of the added adjusted premium because you had the accident. But if you have now a situation where you have all of South Africa's registered cars insured, and that's talking to something else that I'll cover, then at least your end, if you are, you got your own insurance policy, your end is covered from an own damage perspective. And the third party who bumped you can claim some way. So then, that risk heaviness is alleviated from those who actually do take the, who've got the income base to be insured. Looking at the stats, 70% of our road crashes is due to human factors. Talking to drinking and driving, speeding, all of this we know. Fatigue driving, distracted driving, use of our cell phones, eating and drinking. I laughed when it said smoking while driving. I've seen that a couple of times. The one that I laughed the most about is for truck drivers, and I know we're talking to fleet managers today. Cooking and driving. I don't even know how that's feasible. Reading and watching movies while driving. I mean, that for me blows my mind. Okay, I had to add this one in. My colleague told me not to do it, but I did it anyway. Urinating in bottles while driving. I know it's a reality because if you are pressed for time, you must deliver at a certain time. This is a phenomena. It won't happen when you're a woman. I can't see this happening as a lady. So I think the gentlemen are more equipped to be able to do this. But these are the realities in terms of what is destructive driving. So talking to what insurers want to see from fleet managers, I mean, we always say with the mantra, behave as if you are not insured. And if you are not insured, you'll be more risk averse and you will be more cautious, you will be more considerate on the road because you don't want your car damaged because you're not insured. So if we're talking to fleet managers is, the fundamentals, have an occupational health and safety policy, have a robust fleet management and road risk management strategy, talking to driver training. I mean, Eugene already told you he's doing training, so go to Eugene and acquire the training that you need. Effective fitness programs. I mean, I know one of our insurers is big on this. They take the highway in conjunction with RTMC and many other state-owned entities looking at roads and safety. Your blood pressure checks, your diabetic checks. Fatigue comes from when you don't have two drivers, so they can help each other. When one is fatigued, the other one can take over. Those are the kind of risk management protocols that you can follow as a manager, as a fleet manager. Vehicle maintenance, you'll think that it's a fundamental, but as we've heard from, I forgot the gentleman's name, he told us some cars don't even have brakes. I mean, that's worrying if I'm insuring that vehicle, if it is insured, that is. For us, that will help, obviously, is assisting in accident prevention, analyzing what went wrong and trying to fix it so it doesn't happen again. I sneak this one in. That talks to what sits in your policy that you might not be aware of. As a fleet manager, there is a requirement that says prevention of loss, meaning, again, behave as if you are not insured. And that includes as well adherence to laws, relevant laws to you. So if you've got a truck, there's certain requirements that you must follow that is expected from you, running that business. Obviously, others is municipal bylaws, if there are municipal bylaws, but I sneak those one in. Looking at what insurers want to see broadly. So we want to obviously reduce the human factor. Strengthening law enforcement. We know with the current ARTO, which is a bit of a debate in terms of, demerit system. If you don't drive well, you get demerited to the point where you don't even have a license to be able to drive. So we'll see that space and see how it materializes. But we need legislation to drive certain elements that will enforce elements like law enforcement. I mean, there's a gentleman of mine, we've got a platform called Business for Road Safety, and we've got many different associations in there, including the RMI, including SAIA, including FIA, Broker Fraternity. RFA used to be part of us, the AA in and out, but they used to also quite strong in that platform. So we've got a couple of the petroleum industry, the association is in there, and Seganeko is quite active in our platform. And there we've got a couple of pillars that talks to what do we need to advocate and lobby with government. And that talks to the design of the road. I mean, I don't remember what year it was where we had floating cars on the highway. You don't want that. Question is, what went wrong? Is it the storm drainage issue? Is it the road design? What was it? And what is it that we're going to do to try and alleviate those? Climate change is a reality and it's not going to go anywhere. We saw what happened in KZN, where you had floods, where, I remember, even in Joburg, a couple of months back, where I think it was Kempton Park, you have this downward road, there are storm drainage, and you can see the water going in there, but it's popping out again, and it went into a shopping center. So you had a flooded shopping center. So there's certain quite low-hanging fruits that we can fix in South Africa, and that talks to, maintenance of key infrastructure to make sure that we can, assure our safety on the road. Another one that a colleague of mine mentioned, it talks to including driving, training at schools as part of a life orientation. I was thinking my son is now finished with school, but it would be nice for him to have known what he must do before he actually is eligible at 16 to go and get his learners and eventually his license. And I think, catch them while they're young kind of mantra, that might work in terms of driving the right behavior in our drivers. Promoting driver training, all of those you've heard before. One that I'm personally a favorite of is the use of technology. Telematics in the insurance industry is one tool that we use quite profusely, where we know how you're driving, what speed you're driving at, that corner, how did you take that corner? Were you acting as if you are at Kailami, or were you acting as if you're in suburbia? So those are the kind of things you want to see, and then you risk adjust the premium to fit the behavior. That should, incentivize the driver to behave well when they're driving. Of a little personal interest, and then it's an interest that we are driving with the RTMC, is talking to compulsory motor insurance. Like I mentioned before, when your neighbor is insured, as much as he is insured, there are certain requirements that are wanted from that driver who's insured in terms of behavior. Otherwise, his premium will be risk adjusted to fit the behavior of his driving pattern. So one of the elements that we are in that discussion with the RTMC is taking a small levy of that risk premium to pay for road safety activities. And for us, from an industry perspective, in collaboration with our government, that can work because the insurance industry is a good mechanism to risk manage some of these elements. Okay, how am I doing on time? Okay, all right. So the benefits to the fleet manager, I'm sure you know this, effective control, use of technology, you know what you know because you've got data to work from, and you know what to do to make sure that you don't have issues like driver fatigue. What MasterDrive means to us, which is why it's important and why we are here at SAIA, is that it raises the awareness of the importance of road safety. When you say road safety, yawn, for me I worry because road safety is such a big issue. Sorry, I know my background is not, because I just noticed that you're still sitting on the index page, but I hope I haven't lost you in my presentation, even though the index was still on standstill. So it also talks to it acts as an incentive to fleet managers, what fleet managers need to do, what fleet managers need to be aware of. This is very important information to help them manage their fleet and also consider the elements from a risk management perspective. Increases adoption in terms of some of the policies and best practices. What you don't know, but once you know, then you are responsible to say to your board, I didn't follow it. I know, King Ford talks to risk management needs to be a standing agenda item on any board meeting. So for me, risk management talks to, if you're a fleet company, what are you doing about your fleet to risk manage it? MasterDrive is promoting a positive road safety culture. I think if we can imprint that in our country, I drive on the road and I see I won't isolate BMWs or polos, but it gets scary whilst you're driving. It also aims to encourage and enable, the decrease of frequency of road crashes. And ultimately, I know, Tabisa, you'll big up to me mentioning it. We've got a target of reducing our fatalities by 50% by 2030. I mean, that's a big target. So it will be good if, with these kind of initiatives, we're able to drive that culture. Okay, I'm going to end on a bit of a somber note, talking to, so what happens if nothing changes? From an insurance industry perspective, we drive businesses commercially. We're not there, we're not NGOs. So if a line of business is not sustainable, we are forced to cut that risk off. So we need to make sure that before we even go in that line of thinking is what can we do as an industry to be able to risk manage this in collaboration with whichever stakeholder that's strong in that space. MasterDrive, RSP, RTMC, RTIA, any one of these stakeholders are critical to SAIA because we see road safety as a strategic pillar for us. As you know, we are insuring those roads, 1/3 of them anyway, that are on those roads. So making sure that road crashes are reduced is one of our priorities. Thank you so much, and I hope I didn't bore you too much.
I don't know about you, but that was definitely not boring. Thank you there. That was General Manager of Insurance Risk at SAIA, Pamela Ramachaka. Now, our last speaker this morning is a gentleman. I've got a bio here about half an arm length. So let me start. He's going to join us remotely. Well, virtually, right. So to give us an international perspective on road safety, when I said to you earlier on that we are now ranked the most dangerous country to drive in, the safest country for the second year running is Norway, and that's followed by Iceland and Estonia. Didn't even know there were any cars. I mean, listen to us. But anyway, do you know what I mean? But I think it's a bit easier there for them to be such good drivers. However, I'm not making excuses for us. I think we've all just got to get it together, and as you say, something's got to be done about it. Now, this gentleman, Michael Chippendale, is the Communications Manager at Global Road Safety Partnership in Geneva, Switzerland. Michael, apparently, let's just, before we introduce you, Michael, give a bit of background on you. Michael is a wonderfully celebrated Australian. He is the manager, as I just said, of Global Road Safety Partnership based in Switzerland. He carries an MBA in Leadership, Innovation and Change from York St. John University in the UK. He is titled as the Commander in Cambodia for road safety programs he has run in that country. He is a senior judge on the upper level panel for the Prince Michael of Kent International Road Safety Awards. He's also an Australian of the Year nominee back home, which is quite impressive. I'm going to leave this one for last. He's a keen golfer with a hole-in-one to his credit and a fan of rugby, rejoicing in the Wallabies' wins over the Springboks. And yeah, they have beaten us, unfortunately. Look back to 2021. And then, importantly, he's a keen taster of South African wines, moreover, a proud smuggler of South African game meat to his homes in Switzerland and France. I also have here, he also understands that he should say something nice about Eugene Herbert, but he's also a friend of the South African Road Safety Partnership, having worked with them on a number of impactful projects over many years, with more to come. I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Chippendale. Michael, Kudu or Impala?
Well, actually, I think the king of the game meats is Gemsbok.
Oh, and that's a very
if you really
excellent Gemsbok.
want to get into it, Gemsbok is the king.
Thank you for.
Can you
joining
hear me?
us.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you. Please take the floor.
Terrific. Well, thank you for those kind words. I can't imagine where you got those details from. It doesn't sound like I wrote that at all. Happily, I'm joining you today. Sadly, I'm not able to join you in person. I would dearly have loved to be there. We have a number of big projects kicking off in South Africa and indeed continuing in South Africa with a very exciting education program kicking off with the Road Safety Partnership with Eugene, Lucky and team. So I will be there, but not today, later in the year. So very happily, we have covered off on the rugby piece that Eugene raised in his welcome. I feel very welcome here to talk about my love of South African red meat. As a proud Australian, we have superb steak and lamb, and I've traveled the world. I've tasted red meat all over the world. Argentina is a very proud meat culture, but I happily say that South Africa red meat is the best on earth. So congratulations there, and let's look forward to a very interesting rugby championship later this year. I think both the Wallabies and the Springboks are on a good path leading into the 2023 World Cup, which will be here in France. I'm actually in France today. So I would like now to share my screen as I'm going to jump into a little presentation. I don't have a lot of slides, but do tell me if you can see my slides. Can you see my slides?
We can see your slides. Ooh, sorry.
Fantastic. Okay. So I'm going to talk today I've been asked to talk a bit of an international perspective on road safety. And I'm going to the foundation of this is on the safe system approach, which Tanya has given you a wonderful introduction to, so I won't need to go into much detail. I'm going to give you a fairly simple overview of how countries apply the safe system approach and how they work towards the Vision Zero that Tanya spoke about. The country approach is really simple. It must start at the top, but then it requires action at the local level. And that's a little bit about what we're talking here today with fleet managers in the room, that local action, which is so important. So how do countries approach? They need to start with legislation. We need laws. Those laws need to be strong and they need to be specific. And this is not as easy as it sounds. The Global Road Safety Partnership, GRSP, we work a lot with governments as they bring in new legislation. And we work with governments as they strengthen legislation. Good examples of this are, for example, the introduction of a helmet law in Vietnam. Those who are familiar with the Vietnamese traffic environment know that the large proportion of vehicles on the roads are motorbikes. And up until only 12 years ago or so, there was no helmet law. Now, the helmet law was introduced. Good news. And the Vietnamese are largely a compliant society. So helmets started to be worn. However, the law in its initial format only stated that the rider must wear a helmet. If you've been to Vietnam, you know that typically there's more than one person on a motorbike. So the law didn't specify that. So the law needed to be strengthened. And the law was indeed strengthened to include all riders and pillion passengers on a motorbike must wear a helmet. So we think we're done? Not at all. The helmets themselves, there was no legislation around the standards of helmets, and helmets were being sold on the side of the road for very little money, and they were very poor quality helmets, so they didn't offer much protection at all. So the work now is to introduce standards policy around the helmet. So that's just one example of how legislation needs to be implemented and strengthened. Beyond legislation is the education piece. The public needs to be educated as to the existence of a particular piece of legislation, whether that relates to helmet use, seatbelt use, on any of the elements of the safe system, on the speeds, on vehicle standards, which I'll speak to in a little bit. So education, the communication piece needs to be strong. the public need to not only know that there is a law, they need to know why there's a law, that the law is largely there for their safety. It's not government intervention, it's there for their safety and the safety of their family, peers, colleagues, and other road users. With laws in place, the public largely educated, we need to enforce those laws. It's a really big piece of GRSP's work globally is working with enforcement agencies. We work with the traffic police, relevant ministries around enforcing laws. And again, that sounds simple, but traffic police are typically quite underfunded, under-resourced, and often they don't know how to enforce particular laws. For example, in Mexico, when drink driving laws came in, and this is an interesting story, in Guadalajara state, drink driving laws were brought in at a federal level, but then at a state level, they would set their blood alcohol concentration levels, the BAC. Now, in Guadalajara is a large tequila producing state, and therefore the tequila lobby was quite strong. And they were able to lobby the government, who were to put in place legislation around blood alcohol concentration levels, what was a legal driving limit. They negotiated with the mayor, I imagine over lunch, that the initial limit would be 0.15, so triple the recommended World Health Organization upper limit of blood alcohol concentration. So this legislation was brought into force, and of course, not much use if you can be quite drunk and still legally drive. So that legislation was strengthened by reducing the blood alcohol concentration, but the police didn't know how to enforce. So we worked with the police to understand how to strategically enforce drink driving and how to safely enforce drink driving. There were instances, many instances, sadly, of police officers trying to set up a checkpoint and trying to flag down vehicles to check their blood alcohol concentration. And those officers were run down by drivers who had no intention of being checked for blood alcohol concentration or indeed any other infringements they may have been making. So we work with enforcement agencies to be strategic and safe in the enforcement of legislation. So you can see how we're feeding down these 5 points. The legislation must be there. It must be strong and specific. The public need to be educated and understand the legislation. And then there's an enforcement piece which must enforce that legislation. A big part of strategic enforcement is a perception within the community that there is a likelihood of apprehension for breach. And a perception of a likelihood of apprehension. That is where a compliance culture starts to come in. If you are aware there's rules and you're aware that they're being enforced, and you're aware because you've been driving around and you've seen checkpoints. You may not have been pulled over yourself, but you've seen checkpoints for drink driving, maybe on the other side of the road. Once that is visible enforcement and there's communication campaigns around the enforcement, we start to build compliance. And compliance within a community is the first step towards a safe culture. At first, it's I will comply because I fear of the penalty, and ultimately that becomes a safer culture. I think one of the best examples of cultural change is in the use of seatbelts. And this is demonstrated in many parts of the world, Australia being one, where it was only in the 70s that seatbelt rules came in, and particularly seatbelt rules for the rear passengers. Prior to that date, many cars were manufactured without seatbelts, and I'll speak to this with regards to safe vehicles. So then when seatbelts were introduced as law and it was enforced, people would comply. And then ultimately, for my generation, I would not dream of hopping into a vehicle and not doing my seatbelt up. I would feel naked, I would feel underdressed in terms of being in the vehicle. It's pure culture. It's the first thing I do. And it's this path for a country to legislate, to educate, to enforce, that enforces some level of compliance that ultimately becomes culture. And it is relevant to all aspects of the safe system, as Tanya explained here, just with 4 key areas of safe roads. We must legislate that the roads are built safely and that the roads cater for all road users, the vulnerable road users in particular. And that's where you saw Tanya putting the user at the center of the safe system. Safe speeds, we need to legislate for what speeds are safe in a given setting. Tanya showed you a good slide talking about where there's interaction between vehicles and slower moving vehicles or pedestrians, vulnerable road users, cyclists. We need to legislate and enforce and educate to make sure that those speeds are safe. Safe people. This is an ongoing task. Pamela actually mentioned, catch them when they're young. And that's a big piece that people in this room can do to take safety from your own company and take it beyond the business gates and take it into the communities where you operate. And educating young people is a big piece. The Safe to School, Safe to Home is a program that the GRSP runs and has run with the Road Safety Partnership, for example. Also the VIA program, which is an in-school education program that's funded by the corporate foundations of Michelin and Total Energies. These are good examples of private sector programs that catch them when they're young, as Pamela said, and embed safer behaviours. And then the safe vehicles piece, particularly relevant in the South African market, as I'm sure Pamela is only too aware, that there are vehicles imported into South Africa which would not be available for sale in Europe. And Global NCAT have a pretty compelling video on this topic showing a car that's manufactured and sold into South Africa with the same vehicle, but with higher safety standards as can be sold into Europe in a head-on collision. And you have the difference between a 5-star vehicle being sold in Europe and a 0-star car being sold in South Africa. And this is prevalent around the world, throughout Asia, particularly prevalent in Latin America. So safe vehicles, the legislation must be there, but we also need to educate people to look for safer vehicles. Why buy car A over car B? Not because this one has a better sound system, but because this is safer for you and for your family. And when we take these steps, when a country takes this approach, we feed down and then of course start feeding up when culture comes into play. So why is this charming Australian talking about a country approach when we're speaking specifically to fleet managers in South Africa? Well, countries are like companies. And in reverse, companies are actually quite like countries. It may surprise you to know that Walmart, which is arguably the largest company in the world, is in terms of its ecosystem of an economy, that is all of its employees, its suppliers, the delivery trucks, all of its ecosystem of an economy is roughly the same size as the economy of Canada. That's a country of just under 40 million people, 38 million people. You've got one company that has an ecosystem the same size as that. So then we think, what is the private sector approach then? What is the company approach under the banner of the safe system? Well, the company does much what a country does. It needs to legislate. It has company rules. And I'm sure all the companies represented here today and being recognized through this great initiative have rules, not just rules around the workplace, but rules around maintaining safety, whether that's in manufacturing sector or particularly when managing fleet. As we know, and as many companies have recognized, and I'm talking companies, big companies like Shell, for example, are able to identify that even with the nature of their business, an extraction business, offshore gas plants, all of these technically difficult and dangerous processes, the largest risk for injury of staff and third-party contractors was the use of the road. And so that's when life-saving rules are brought in companies. And then, of course, they're communicated within the company. not just in onboarding, but every day. Safety rules are embedded into the communications of many, many companies, many successful companies. And then, of course, there's an enforcement piece. It's no use having rules if they're not followed. And if they're not followed, there must be action. And that action can be obviously reprimands. It can be losing one's employment. And that may sound harsh, but I think the threat of losing one's employment versus the threat and very real possibility of losing one's life should be weighed up in that discussion. So action must be taken at the company level if rules are not followed. What you will then have is you develop, much like at the country level, compliance within the team. And then ultimately what you want to see is that you get a culture of safety within a company. And I know that that's what we're here to recognise today. Those companies that have taken the steps, the proactive steps to put in place rules that save the lives of their team. It keeps the family of the team safe and it keeps other road users safe. And the wonderful thing, and it was said by the head of public affairs at Michelin some years ago, who was chair of the board of GRSP at the time, he said of private sector action in the road safety space that there is no competitive advantage to road safety. A safer user on the road means a safer road for all. This is why we're seeing many companies that may be marketplace competitors actually teaming up and working in the space of road safety. This is why we're seeing the WHO really recognising the role of private sector in its new global plan for the Decade of Action for Road Safety. This is why events like this are important, to encourage and recognise those who are taking an active role in keeping their teams safe and therefore keeping others safe on our roads. So I would like to congratulate MasterDrive on this initiative. I would like to thank Eugene and team for allowing me to say a few words today. And I would like to thank and congratulate everyone in the room for the life-saving work that you're doing within your company. Thank you and have a very good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I must just ask you, and I must just tell you from all of us here, best of luck on that Australian of the Year nominee. He's gone. Okay, he's gone.
I won't go into details, but that was 2012.
Was
quite
that
an honour.
2012?
Then I moved to Switzerland.
Win.
I haven't received any recognition in Switzerland as yet.
That's very disappointing. Anyway, lovely chatting to you. Thanks for that. And now we're saying goodbye to you, and we're going to introduce the judging panel. Now, some people are here, some people are not here, but just to quickly run through it, and if you are here, if you could just stand up very quickly and sit down again. Derek Kirby, Training Director at MasterDrive. Derek is not here today. He is training. He's doing what he should be doing. Right. Pamela Ramahoho from SAYA, as we know before. Saramahaha, ne? Yeah, very good, thank you. Dr. Lee Randall from Road Ethics Project, not here. Lucky Malodzi, Road Safety Partnership, SA. Is it Jean or Jean Esterhazen from RMI? Jeanne? Jeanne? Not here? Okay. Tabiso Ndebele from RTMC. Tabiso, welcome, thank you. Tandeka Ngoma from Bridgestone. Thanks, welcome Tandeka. Stephen Marin from Afrox, not here. And Claire Vale from The Truckman, also not here. But thank you very much to availing themselves, all those judges, to basically get us to where we are coming up to now, that the Fleet Safety Awards. Just to say that, just checking with you, Eugene, the independent auditor, Francois Olivier, is he going to say a few words? Mr. Francois Olivier, is it Olivier? Olivier, please come up and join us. Francois is the director at Gladio Underwriters. Welcome.
Good day, everyone. Basically, first of all, I just want to say thank you for this initiative. It is a very good initiative in South Africa. From our side, we are very privileged to be asked to audit the results of the judges. We went through all the information of all the contestants, as well as the judging results. We, according to all the evidence that we went through, we can confirm that it is a fair and correct result. So we want to say congratulations to all the finalists. You did a remarkable and a good job, and we wish that all the other ones who do not get an award today, next year is an opportunity for you to do it. So first of all, the fact that you are here is already a good result. In South Africa, like all the presentations has been taken place, it is important that we all have to work towards this goal, improving road safety and fleet safety. So we just wanted to say from our side, this is a good and a big occasion, and may it be a start for good and great things. So, yeah, congratulations to all the ones who win. Okay.
Baie dankie Franso Olivier. Daarvan sê ek dit reg, is dit Gladio of Gladio? Gladio. Gladio underwriters. Baie dankie. Thanks very much. Right, now, I think this is my favorite part of the awards. We are there, we are there, we are there. But I'm going to read you a little something that Eugene Herbert, MasterDrive CEO, put together. And this is basically, over there, there's a beautiful award which you haven't seen yet, but the person who it's been named after, just like Eugene, I can't think of anyone more worthy, who has sacrificed more over the years, and not even I was aware of how much over the years he'd actually done. I am going to tell you a bit in just a while. Anyway, we're not going to be much longer. I can see you're hungry. The food is here, so not too long now. So Eugene says, of all the persons I know, the one that best epitomizes what commitment to road safety is all about. Little, if anything, is done to recognize the efforts of those who fight the good fight and say thank you for their dedication and commitment to a thankless work. With that in mind, it was decided to use this opportunity to recognize one such individual who has and continues to work in the interests of you and I, as well as the organizations we represent. Not only is Philip a dedicated ambassador for road safety, but I'm also proud to call him my friend. And are we going to unveil it now, or are we going to wait? Shall I? Oh, it's unveiled. Why didn't you tell me? You were supposed to. Did you just do it? That's fantastic. Sorry. And I'm thinking, but okay. So that is it. That is the Philip Hull Road Safety Steering Award. Isn't it beautiful? Woo, that is nice. It's a floating trophy that Eugene says he trusts will grace the boardroom of the company deserving of this special award, an award which is given to a company that has and continues to promote road safety as one of its core values in its pursuit of excellence. Now, and signed off Eugene Herbert, CEO MasterDrive. Just some of the reasons why this award carries Philip's name. And I had no idea. I knew that he did this. I didn't know that he does this every year, all the time. Easter 2023 will be 40 years at Van Riemen's Pass. When you and I are having Easter, or we're having Christmas, or whatever we're doing, Philip Hull is manning the N3 at Van Riemen's Pass. Okay? free service to the monitoring public in the area over long weekends and other heavy volume periods, extensive community involvement at schools, orphanages, and general community. Team members are all volunteers and are highly trained in trauma and rescue practices. Developed good relationships in the area with other role players, SAPS, South African Police Service, KwaZulu-Natal Road Traffic Inspectorate, the N3 toll concession, and local medical rescue entities. Why Van Riemen's? Well, a high accident area, high numbers of heavy truck sharing with high volumes of passenger vehicles, tight mountain pass, often inclement weather conditions, combined with the fact that at the top of Van Riemen's Pass, the distance to Harrismith is approximately 30 kilometers and some 50 kilometers from Ladysmith, where responding medical services would then respond from. Our partners currently are Mercedes-Benz Vans, Volvo Cars, and Honda Motors SA, who support with 3 vehicles. Currently, all other costs relating to fuel, meals, accommodation, medical consumables, and equipment maintenance is covered by the team members themselves. I mean, how selfless. And partnering with the Road Safety Foundation of South Africa, he has for the last 8 years. I would love to introduce to you a good friend of mine too, Mr. Philip Hull. Right.
Wow.
Would you like to say a few words?
I'm not much of a public speaker, but
That's fine.
thank you so much. And Eugene, thank you for this initiative. I think the previous speakers have really said everything. There's some really good thoughts that have come out. Road safety. I'm one of the founding directors of the Road Safety Foundation, which we started some 10, 11 years ago. It's a really difficult industry to be in. To all of you that are here, congratulations. To the winner, congratulations. I'm going to lay a little bit of a challenge for Eugene, perhaps for next year, as he's put me on the spot here. I think within the trucking industry particularly, I think we need a best practice.
Like that. In the meantime, I am going to choose some virtual winners.
Let's do the, in case I have to go, let's give the prize for the fleet manager, the awards.
Okay. Sorry, hang on.
I'm not her husband, just in case you're wondering about the bigger one. All right? Okay.
Okay, well, do you want to?
No, you can.
So
You get paid the boss sum of nothing to do this.
you don't have to tell everybody.
She volunteered, by the way.
Gee whiskers.
And she did say to me, if anybody wants a good MC, I must just put in a good word for it. All right?
A good MC. Well, you've been promoting yourself so much. Right, so I'm a script writer. No, don't worry. Okay, so now are you going to present the final? Right, very well. So we have got, we've done our 10 finalists. Right. So now do you know what? Do you know why I'm umming and ahhing? Because I am missing.
She mislaid
I'm
it,
missing
guys.
that page. As you know, if my laptop, so much for Apple, but it has had a very good innings. I would have, let me just see what I have here. So sorry, guys. Most embarrassing. Oh, marvelous, marvelous. You see, that's why I was trying to push it off on you. I was going, okay. In third place, Edward Hoffman. Please come up. There we go. Thank you.
Can I just say a few words?
Yes.
Folks, just so that you know, we decided to attach a monetary value to this because otherwise you wouldn't have entered. So the second runner-up gets a check. Look at this. He can't bank it, so we're safe for 2,500 rand. Edward, congratulations.
In second place, Louw Rickert.
There we are.
That is 5,000 rand, isn't it?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Less commission, okay?
And in first place, the inaugural Fleet Safety Awards Fleet Manager is Jonathan Mpake. Yay! 50,000 Rand. Well done.
There we are. Hey, come on. He said if I voted for him, he would share it. Okay.
Well done,
Can
fantastic.
we ask that these three guys, let's do their photographs first, and then if we can get your the finalists or the companies, please, who got certificates.
Me home, and I got, you know, a plaster and all types of things. But I say that story because another guy, Jeff Day, who was my pastor, said, you need to go back to work. And I went back to work the next day. They couldn't believe it. They said, what is wrong with you? You are absolutely crazy. But I said, you know what?
This is so great, eh, Jacques? Yeah, yes, he's killing him. Yeah, okay. So those were eliminated. So by the time the judges looked at it, they had no idea who they were judging. And that is why Gladio there could see that the process, the scoring was done, and therefore the company that won, Reef, great, and Jonathan there, we say fantastic. Eh? We'll have a little bit more after that. Back to you.
Well, there's not much more to say. I think should people start getting their food, or should we do the virtual? Let's do the virtual. Okay, so have we got everyone online, all our virtual guests? Hello, everyone there, just say a hello or wave. No, don't wave yet. You're going to have to wave when I ask a question. Hello.
Ask them to put a reaction on.
Yes.
Under the reaction, they can put a hand up.
And now I'm going to ask a couple of questions, which I'm still going to make up. And I'm going to, if you can, which you've all now disappeared, there you are. If you can give me a wave if you know the answer. Because what I've got here, first of all, I have got a couple of prizes to give away. And the first one is a drive risk. No, it's not. Sorry. The first one is a wine cooler from Equestra. Okay? So who's up for a wine cooler from Equestra? So what I'm going to ask you is, what was the amount of fleets that we said we have more or less in South Africa now? And I want you to action it and put up the waving hand if you know. The number of fleets, I said it's over a certain amount. Does anyone know? Yes. Deepak Nanan. Deepak, do you want to tell us? Here, Deepak? Deepak, are you there? Have you got your sound on? Anyway, don't worry. We're gonna get to you. They're gonna write your name down, and you will get his details, right? So you have one for yourself, a wine cooler from Equestra.
The moral of the story is, if you're there, you can just put.
Don't be shy. He's not even showing me his photo. You know what? This is why remotely. Why are people so shy? Show us your face. Right now. The second one, I've got two of these, gift packs with JBL earplugs from Hino. Once again, a question. Let's think of a question. Who has just won the Fleet Manager Award in the first Fleet Safety Awards? Who?
Jonathan, you can't answer it yourself.
And we've got a hand. Is that Gopolang Muswane? Gopolang? Hello. You've won yourself JBL earplugs, gift packs from Hino, and then we have another one for that. Who or which company won the Best Company Award, that beautiful steering here today in the first Fleet Safety Awards? Which company won the Best Company in the Fleet Safety Awards? Come on, that's really easy. So what do we do with the prize if nobody answers?
You can take it.
Oh, I can take it, he says. Oh,
Elka,
brilliant.
Elka from
Oh, so Elka, just go away. I'm only joking. That's Elka Dupisani. Elka Dupisani, you've got yourself those earplugs from Hino. Then, this is a nice one. Okay, this is a really nice one. Who wants to win an Auto Gymkhana experience with MasterDrive? Don't put your hands up.
Nadine Swat.
Well, should we just give it to her because she's saying it? Yes, Nadine, it's yours. We don't have a question for you. There, it's Nadine's. That's Nadine Swart for the MasterDrive experience, the Gymkhana experience. Then we have, one executive gift set from Joburg Expo Centre. Let's think of a question quickly.
Just say those hands that are up there don't qualify. Take them down.
Okay, yeah. Take your hands down now that have already won. You can't play again. Well, there's Leslie Cameron. Oh, yeah. You don't qualify yet because we haven't asked anything yet. But you see, she's now going to say, but the last person didn't get a question, so I've just put up my hand.
No, she takes it. If she puts it up quick enough, she can.
Okay, so, question. Where is South Africa ranked, unfortunately, in the most dangerous countries in the world to drive? Leslie Cameron. Okay, Leslie Cameron, she's got it. We're giving it to Leslie Cameron, so she's getting the executive gift set from Johannesburg Expo Centre. Then, oh, that's nice. Then there is a MasterDrive High Performance gift pack. I have 2 of those to give to our virtual winners. Questions. What time are we going to be done? Prizes for guessing. Okay. There we go.
Rose and Dina.
Okay, we have chosen Rose, Ramatisa, and Dina Paulson. Rose, Ramatisa, and Dina Paulson. Here we go. And lastly, actually there is no lastly. There's it's only you guys here who are getting the executive packs from Tata. Is there more there? A turn back. I'm a professional at this, you know. Okay. So we've got one from Bridgestone. Okay. So we need one virtual winner there. Let's see. What is for lunch? What do you think is for lunch? See hands up. Take hands down. Take hands down. There's everywhere. Or should we just choose?
No, take the hands down.
Hands down. Hands down. Quickly, otherwise none of us are going to eat. Right. Leslie.
Down.
Down. Don't worry. Okay, they are excluded. They are.
Yeah, okay.
You can't take
next
it.
one whose hand is up.
Next one whose hand is up is getting. Oh, all at the same time.
I saw Jareen Chetty there just now. All right,
Okay.
So give it to
All
her.
right. Doreen Chetty, you've got the Bridgestone from Bridgestone. And then 2 last ones, right? Executive packs from Tata. And I'm going to count from 3 to 1, and whoever puts their hand up exactly at that time. 3, 2, 1. Nadine Swart.
No, she's won.
She's won. Hey, that didn't mean you can do it again.
There's Sean Hutchinson.
Sean Hutchinson, you've got one of the executive packs from Tata. And
Listen, by the way, guys, you're not allowed to log on yet to get virtual to get a prize, eh?
And again, 3, 2, 1. Ivan Moodley. Is that right? Yes. No, Henry Jonker. It was Henry Jonker. Sorry, Ivan. Sorry. We can give Ivan one as well. There we go. Both of you. You've all got. Congratulations, everybody who's won prizes. You guys come and collect your prizes afterwards.
Just do a wrap-up. I'll just need to do a wrap-up and one final prize.
Yeah. And then we're going to now wrap up. So Eugene has just a few words to say. And I'm sure after that he's going to tell you to tuck into the lunch that looks very nice. And I haven't had time to have anything this morning. So I'm going to be there first because you're still going to be seated. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause for Lorette Morgan. Thank you, Lorette. We will forgive the faux pas because this is the first. This is the dry run. Next year is the real event. So just by way of thank you again, I want to thank our EC partners. Somebody stole my Don notes there, so now I'm speaking ad lib, all right? So thank you. If I don't have all your names up front, please, but you know who you are. Thank you for supporting us in this initiative. Thank you for our speakers. You know, Michael makes light of our engagement, but it's really a privilege working with GRSP. And just for your information, for transparency, hey, there they are. You pinched them. She did that to make herself look good, all right? So I'm the local chairperson of RSP, which is affiliated to GRSP. And so therefore, and we have our general manager sitting there, Lucky Molutsani. So please, that's a non-profit organization. We rely on organizations to help us deliver projects. We call them Safe to School, Safe to Home, for our children, the vulnerable ones who cannot speak for themselves. So you and I should be doing something. So road safety is not just an initiative to protect our employees, we need to take it further. And that's affiliated to the International Red Cross and the Red Crescent Foundation. So really, we do great work. So thank you very much for that, Michael. He still can't pronounce Gem's book, but we'll let him off for now. Do you recall the quote, to be the change you wish to see in the world? Who said that? You're right and you're wrong. That's a contradiction. Eh? Let me tell you why. The words that he actually said, and I know you and I, we've quoted that often. Eh? Here are the words that he said. We but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. This is the divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing it is, and the source of our happiness. We need not wait to see what others do. Do you see how easy it is to encapsulate it in those words? Personally, I like the first version, all right? Be the change that you wish to see in the world. And that is what we've encouraged you to do, to make a difference. And I do trust that you see the need to partner with us on this journey in the years ahead. All our partners have committed to a 3-year project. 3 years. We had 44 companies. The challenge to you is, how do you engage? And remember, Michael made a comment. There's no ownership of road safety, eh? It's not about you owning it and me owning it. It is non-partisan, non-political. That's why you have Hino here, you have Tata. Effectively competitors. I know you guys may not agree how you compete, but we had to make a difference. So please reach out, because we would like to ensure that we get there tomorrow. I just would like to, you know the quote, have you heard this before? When leadership is absent, have you read it? So when leadership is absent or unquintessential leadership is in place, joining virtually. If they learn something from this and they preach road safety, I'm happy. Let's hope they do join us. And then for the partners, for being present here today, take time out of your busy day to be here is really important. And that man over there, who is the Director for Road Safety at RTMC, am I correct? Executive Manager, he's the big boss. Please, he's here today. He is our commitment. So you're going to support us, are you? Definitely. Unequivocal? Yes? Yes. Okay. So, again, thank you very much. And by the way, to the service providers, Expo Center, for the guys who operated the sound and those who joined virtually, a brilliant thank you. And my team over there, I couldn't have done it without them. So please, will you give them? We have Leonie, we have Lauren Kelly, we have Costa and Nishani. And then let's not forget the 30 back at the office who are sweating. So thank you again. Let's have photographs and let's have lunch. Thank you. Oh, sorry, guys, where's Reef Tankers? We know you can't drive a trophy around on the boardroom table, but here's a model truck that you can drive on the boardroom table. So please take this away. Lunch is served, other than the guys who need to be photographed. Sorry guys, it's help yourself. So those who have gone to get nicotine injections, after that, please come and join here in the queues.
Guys with certificates, please can you go to the back there? You'll see the wall banner.